one-on-one personal training thing is something you're either built for or you're not built for. And some folks do a really good job with it for a long period of time. They learn how to manage things, and mostly it's like managing their schedule and their energy. Obviously, you've got to be good with people, and you've got to get people results. But the online coaching thing certainly took off big time, when there were the shutdowns a few years ago with a few things. I mean, it was a necessity for folks to do that. And so you saw this huge uptick in, going online and trying to provide your services online. And a lot of things got figured out then, everything from the tech behind it to, how to deliver it, to how to market it, to obviously from an e-commerce perspective, how to keep it running. So I think it's important to kind of just differentiate what online coaching is versus an online workout program, because those are two very different things. And obviously there's a difference between having a coach online versus having a coach in person. And I think there's different strokes for different folks in all of those things. And that includes trainers and the consumer. And so one of the things we were actually toying around with is Red Dot, not toying around. We got into it pretty deeply. And that was taking our services online so that we could, for the coach, so obviously the advantage is you expand your market reach, right? Gyms in general work on about this is statistics, they work on about a 5-mile radius, right? So your local gym basically is drawing people in from about a 5-mile radius. Why? Because we know statistically that consumers, the first thing they're going to buy is on convenience. Mm-hmm. That's just what the fitness industry is, right? And anybody that's a member of a gym gets that probably. If you have a remarkable product, that radius expands. And when I say remarkable, I mean a good product, right? Or a good facility. People will drive a little bit further. And, if you've provided good parking for them and, a cool place to be and all those things that attract people, and you can start to expand it. But obviously, those things got really wild, and that wasn't working, right, for a while there. And so people started to move online. And my point of that is we had visited that for a while and then decided we're really going to put our efforts into expanding our footprint locally, right? And have a bigger facility, move into a place that had a little bit more access, that was growing, right? And that's always the trick, right? For coaches, I'm maybe working in a studio and I have some clients and I'm paying rent, or they're taking a percentage of my session rate or however it works, whatever the model is. And they're ultimately I could do this on my own, right? And way more than has ever been successful. I've seen people try that and then fall on their face because they didn't know what they didn't know. They don't really understand how to manage business outside of their 20 clients, 25 clients, whatever they had, and it gets overwhelming. But COVID and those shutdowns, there was a lot more resources, material, and I think models to look at for folks. That's on the trainer side or the coach's side, and so the business side, but also on the consumer side, where people got a lot more educated on how to do this well.
Well, that, and the other thing is too, I think those platforms that came about, they've also advanced as well. Because when we were looking at this back in 2015 or 2014, there was a platform that we were using and it was clunky. Yep. But that same platform now has come a long way as far as usability on both the consumer side and the coaching side. Yeah,
and with that, so now more people have had experience, just like people, had tons of experience and have had lots of experiences going into big box gyms. I think it's different now when, earlier in my career, everybody had it. Very rarely did I ever talk to anybody or give anybody a tour of the clubs I was working for that hadn't already been a member at another club, that already been through the ringer, right? They understand this is the tour, this is the membership process, this is what I get, these are my monthly payments, this is my monthly dues, this is my membership fee, all that kind of stuff. So when you came in, that started to get more refined and people started to understand that. So they kind of knew about it. It streamlined the process for them, and it streamlined the process for the companies that had that. And then we saw things like CrossFit come in and more studios start open up. The studios always existed, but then CrossFit happened, right? And that kind of changed the game a little bit. People got a little bit of a different look. It gave coaches different opportunities to do different things, certainly more accessibility to the things that they knew maybe their coach or their clients needed to be doing, right? And they could customize things a little bit more. They had a little bit more autonomy in how they did that. And so now then you saw a huge expansion in the smaller footprints or the smaller models. And then you get into today where you have such a mix of both. And then you saw during that process, even later in that, you saw things get even more niched out. Like now we have actual places where you just go to get on a bike and ride nowhere, right? With a disco ball and loud music, right? With a DJ that's actually on the bike, up front leading the quote unquote workout, right? You have places where you go and row and that's all you do. You have places where you go and get on treadmills and that's all you do. You have just Pilates, you have just yoga. Again, yoga studios kind of moved into big clubs and then they moved back out. And so again, there's all of this access for people. And so what really evolved just in the last few years, again, is this online coaching piece. And people, again, given that evolution of kind of the fitness industry, have been to all these places and they kind of understand how it works. They joined the yoga studio for 2 years and they recognized they got some good stuff out of it. That's not all they needed. They needed their resistance training. So where were they going to go? Maybe they jump back into that big box model, or maybe they went to a CrossFit studio or whatever the thing is. The point being, online training has evolved and we've seen a lot of things happen. And now it seems everybody's an online trainer. It's the new fad. And everybody can jump into this. Anybody can get on and have an online training platform. And if you're in this business or if you follow a lot of fitness stuff, you're probably seeing a ton of ads from people out there on social media that says, hey, I just made $100,000 this month and my first month as a personal trainer just with this system, and whatever. And it's really talking more about the marketing and not so much about the training, right? Not so much about the programming, not so much about the experience, but the people behind the coaching. And again, with any evolution of anything, you're going to have some pros, you're going to have some cons, and you're going to have a figuring out process. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that directly to the consumer today, about online training and how to do it right. So if you're in this and or not necessarily the trainer, the online consumer, but also talk to the trainer about the training and the trainers that we kind of see doing it well, right? And the common patterns there and the successes that they're having and the reasons why. Again, talk about how to do online coaching correctly. Because I think there's many ways, but I think there's some ways that are way better than others. So again, in differentiating this stuff, what we're talking about is working with a coach who's providing you a program that and then also has regular communication with you in some way, and we'll talk a little bit about that, of the programming, of what you're doing inside that programming, and providing you guidance through that program. This is going to be different than buying an online workout program. And let me define that further, and that would be this. This is somebody is selling you some type of a template or a prepackaged, say, 12-week program, like what we sell with the Red Dot Fitness Strong and Red Dot Fitness Max. Those are 16-week programs, but those where you're getting some information, right, about maybe the rationale behind the program, how the program's set up, and then you get the workout templates, and you have this thing you follow, right, to get involved in, which there isn't any direct coaching. There's not a lot of direct guidance outside of what's in the package that you get, the PDF or the email program or whatever else. It's separate from the coach or the personalization piece. So when we're talking about online, virtual coaching, we're talking about getting that personalization piece. And there are some advantages to this for both the coach and the consumer.